Hello, I'm Henry Keane and we are UATV English with a weekly wrap-up of things that matter. Welcome to the show. Ukrainian security forces targeted Russian military infrastructure in Penza, Russia. On July 31st, a major defense industry facility in Penza, Russia came under attack. Local Telegram channels report it was the radio factory plant. Video footage shared on social media showed thick black smoke rising over the city, well visible from multiple directions. The regional governor later confirmed one of Penza's industrial sites was targeted and set ablaze, but claimed there were no casualties or structural damage. Authorities also introduced temporary mobile internet restrictions supposedly to aid anti-drone defense systems or to counter info spreading. Maybe Andrei Kovalenko, head of Ukraine Center for Countering Disinformation, confirmed the strike on the Penza radio factory, describing it as a key part of Russia's defense industrial complex. According to him, the factory produces critical communications equipment for the Russian military, including mobile command centers, automated battle management systems, radio comms for ground and airborne forces, as well as strategic missile units, upgraded command and control vehicles. Kovalenko also noted that the disruption of this facility would seriously impact Russia's military command and control capabilities on the front line. A special unit of the main directorate of Ukraine intelligence carried out a successful operation on the Tendra Spit in the Black Sea off the coast of the Kherson region. On the 9th of July 28th, Marine scouts landed on the Spit and completely destroyed the position of Russian occupiers, as well as Zond, the umbrella in English, electronic warfare system, and the Rosa radar station. The fighters planted then the Ukrainian flag. The footage you will see now is the archive exclusive footage of the Stugna unit, part of the special forces of the main intelligence directorate of Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. Assault operations in progress, Ukrainian special forces fighters clearing positions in the fields near Pokrovsk-Donetsk region. It's winter 2025. Deployment in armored vehicles, fire contact, precise maneuvers, battle management, occupiers destroyed. Then moving forward, holding positions. This is exactly how the fight for Ukraine continues. We show it today as it is summer now, and this footage going public cannot damage in any way frontline operations of the AFU and Main Directorate of Intelligence, while it can give you, our audience, a hint to understand how modern trench warfare takes place in Ukraine. The military portal Task and Purpose published an excerpt of a new 170-page long US Army report that analyzes in detail how Russian troops are conducting combat operations in Ukraine. The key points are: Russian troops in Ukraine expect that tactics based on brutality and the predominance of quantity over quality can bring them success. The Russians have returned to Soviet tactics favoring mass over maneuver, quantity over quality, and brutality over precision, the report says. Russia, despite sanctions, isolation and combat losses, is quickly adapting and refining its model of warfare, which uses mass improvisation and the latest technology to maintain offensive potential far longer than many expected. Drones have become a central element of almost every aspect of the Russian way of war today. Obviously, same is true for the Ukrainian side. The Russian armed forces use various unmanned aerial vehicles that operate as one system. Some UAVs designate targets, others assault the target, the third confirm if the target has been hit. At the same time, Russian army units below the battalion level often just do not have their own drones, although they make independent efforts to solve the issue. The report emphasizes that electronic warfare and reconnaissance in Russian units are well developed and deeply integrated into combat operations. Electronic countermeasure systems suppress enemy communications and even satellite navigation, reducing the effectiveness of the guided weapons like HIMARS, guided missiles, or Excalibur, guided artillery. GPS is jammed by Russian quite effectively. Despite the different levels of training of troops in Russian army, professional units often maintain a high level of combat readiness even after serious losses. While mobilized units often experience problems, obviously, with motivation and coordination, still, even less trained units quickly adapt and learn to survive in difficult conditions. Well, overall, this is an uncoordinated mechanism, and there is no systematic approach to management of it. With meat waves, assaults where hundreds of Russians just die, or situations when just one soldier goes to plant a single landmine and becomes easy prey, of course, for Ukrainian drones. While coordinated operations of professional units of the Russian army is a real threat and a menace indeed, and a target. As of now, Ukrainians are effectively holding the front line, and all Russian units are grinding to zero, so to say, in more or less coordinated attempts to push forward and occupy even more Ukrainian land. Still, make no mistake, Russian bicycle assaults, for example, and things like that only might look funny, but maybe it is not. So I decided to talk to someone with over 37 years of military experience in warfare to help me to find that out.
It's not funny, and it's very serious, because it's not just bicycles, of course, it's motorcycles,
right,
and it's quad bikes. And what they're doing is very, very sensible and very usable. I mean, the aim of the Russian infantry at the moment is to push the line forward. And to push the line forward, they are using whatever means they can. In fact, someone's actually seen a horse and showed a picture of a horse, using any means they can to overwhelm the Ukrainian infantry and to go behind them, to get behind them, and then to sort of create a pocket that others can then go to just get round and isolate Ukrainian infantry. And that is what they're doing now. The beauty of using bicycles and motorcycles and everything else is that they are quicker. So they're quicker than a man walking. And that makes it quite difficult, because once you spread them out and they go quickly, often the infantry, our infantry, don't have enough capacity immediately to kill everybody. Because some of them are behind trees, behind buildings, behind everything else. And if they move faster, they've got this greater chance of getting behind. And they are doing that. So, you can be a sniper and you can say, hey, what the hell's this, a man on a horse? If that man on the horse is actually in the area which you're shooting. But if he's a kilometre to the left or a kilometre to the right, you may in a gully, you may never see him.
Right. So
this is what they're playing. They're playing this swamp, this game of
spread out,
push,
right,
push, spread out, push in big numbers, get behind, and then once they're behind, following up with drones and artillery onto where they can actually understand that the Ukrainian forces are.
And we are doing this. Official Kyiv confirmed a successful strike on Russian logistic hub in the city of Salsk in the Rostov region. A major railway junction was targeted, said Andrei Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation under the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine. He emphasized that the railway is the main artery of Russian war against Ukraine, and without it functioning properly, the actions of the Russian army at the front line are to slow down significantly.
At night, the railway and resource base of the Russians in the city of Salsk were attacked. A key logistics hub is located there. Fuel, ammunition and equipment pass through it to the front in the Donetsk region towards the temporarily occupied Crimea and Zaporizhia. Andrei Kovalenko, head of the Center for Countering Disinformation of Ukraine, on Telegram.
And so it seems the Ukrainian defense forces have begun to actively target Russian railway infrastructure in order to disrupt their logistics. On July 27th, a substation in Zhutovo, for example, Volgograd Oblast, burns down, causing delays in rerouting in train schedule. Then on July 29th, the Dvoynaya substation in Orel Oblast was targeted, also causing serious logistic problems for Russians. A train carrying fuel and oil byproducts was targeted in Salsk just as well. All that means the Ukrainian defense forces have both the physical capabilities and data necessary for such a long-range precision strikes on the enemy logistic hubs. It might also be a preparation stage for a summer counter-attack, but let's not be too hasty now and just state is a matter of the fact Ukrainian defense forces are gaining the momentum using their new long-range strike capabilities. Russia has learned to live under sanctions, but Donald Trump is changing the rules of the game. This is how Republican Senator Lindsey Graham responded to Putin's press secretary Peskov's statement that Russia had a certain immunity to restrictions and is ready for economic pressure. Graham noted that most representatives of both parties in Congress are ready to help President Trump introduce new duties on countries that buy oil and gas from Moscow.
Russia, you are right about sanctions. You have avoided them and learned to live with them. What you obviously don't realize is that President Trump is changing the rules of the game and is going to impose tariffs on the countries that buy your oil and gas to support your war machine. Perhaps you should contact those countries soon to see if they are as casual about this as you are. Lindsey Graham, Republican Senator, on social media X.
Just after the new ultimatum deadline by Donald Trump, the Russians reacted. A massive missile attack on Ukraine capital, Kyiv, leaving hundreds wounded. At least 31 people were murdered by Russia, just died under the rubble. Donald Trump simply could not ignore the fact of the terror.
Yeah, we have about 8 guys. Yeah, we're going to put sanctions. I don't know that sanctions bother him. You know, they know about sanctions. I know better than anybody about sanctions and tariffs and everything else. I don't know if that has any effect, but we're going to do it. Europe is extremely upset, but this is a war that should have never happened.
Then Medvedev, the former president of Russia, publicly threatened Lindsey Graham on X social network and promised to unleash war on the United States, no less. Well, his post was carefully translated and presented to Donald Trump with some Indian economy even included.
I don't care what India does with Russia. They can take their dead economies down together, for all I care. We have done very little business with India. Their tariffs are too high, among the highest in the world. Likewise, Russia and the USA do almost no business together. Let's keep it that way. And tell Medvedev, the failed former president of Russia who thinks he's still president, to watch his words. He's entering very dangerous territory. Donald Trump, President of the United States, on Truth Social.
If one wonders what is it, democracy after all, one might want to look on what happened recently in Ukraine. A war, or the war, better said, is the implementation of Ukrainian national craving to be free. And all the fighting with criminal Russian imperialism on the front line became even possible for small Ukraine against big bully Russia because Ukrainian people have that national trait, hypersensitivity to injustice. And when power tends to forget about that, people come out in the streets as a solid reminder we are here and we are not to be forgotten, and President hears his nation.
One more thing. I spoke with NABU Director Simon Krivonos, SAPO Prosecutor Oleksandr Klimenko, Prosecutor General Ruslan Kravchenko, and Head of the Security Service of Ukraine, Vasyl Malyuk. We discussed various challenges, all of them. The anti-corruption infrastructure will work, only without Russian influence. It needs to be cleared of that, and there should be more justice. Of course, anti-corruption infrastructure will work, and it is important that the Prosecutor General is determined to ensure that in Ukraine, the inevitability of punishment for those who go against the law is actually ensured. This is what Ukraine really needs. The cases that have been lying dormant must be investigated.
As a reminder what happened, Ukrainian people decided that the new anti-corruption law proposed by the president of Ukraine just waives the independence of Anti-Corruption Bureau and thus can be served as a tool for those in power for inequity and impunity. Was it the case or it was not the case? It's not even of utter importance. What is, however, of utter importance is that the president of Ukraine heard the nation, the people. That feedback that needs to be always be working in order for the power in the country to have grounds to call itself democratic and not to fade out to autocracy. It is working in Ukraine. In times of war and suffering, in times of overnight Russian shelling and killings of civilians and children every single day and night, still, young Ukrainians just take a piece of cardboard, paper and walk out in the streets, so to seek for justice and for their voice to be heard, and it was heard. President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has signed into law the bill reinstating previously revoked guarantees of independence for the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, NABU, and Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, SAPO, less than 2 hours after it passed in the Verkhovna Rada.
I have just signed the document and it will be published immediately. These are guarantees for the proper independent functioning of our anti-corruption agencies and all law enforcement bodies in our country. It is the right decision. It is very important that the state listens to public opinion. Ukraine is a democracy. There is no doubt about it. Volodymyr Zelenskyy, President of Ukraine.
Thank you for your time. This was a weekly wrap-up on UATV, giving you a most important update on the week. My name is Henry Keane, and I sincerely ask you to join us, like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Stay on the right side of history and tune for more already next week. Bye-bye.